Hello guys and assalamu alaikum. This is Mevish here. Guys, I am super excited about today and I really hope that my internet doesn't crash. Uh, it wasn't working since our electricity is gone. Guys, today I have Daniel coming forward and we are going to be talking about something sorry, something I'm really looking forward to, and that is talking about divorce. And then how do we put ourselves out there once we're divorced, and what kind of challenges can one go through uh, uh, during divorce and right after divorce. um, Let me send him the invite. I'm so sorry guys, I just completely um, I was really upset because there was no internet and I just lost my trail of thought. So I'm gonna send him the invite. Okay, there we go. Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? I'm so sorry for the delay. There is no electricity and the internet just won't work.
Oh, that's terrible. Hopefully,
I know. Sucks. With
nothing
the new
wrong.
government, it sucks. The electricity goes more than often.
Yeah, right.
So before we dive into our conversation, a little about where you're from and what do you do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I know that we have messaged back and forth trying to make this work, and with time zones and as busy as we've all been, I appreciate you being patient with me. Um, so, for uh, I assume your audience probably has a little bit more of an international flavor. I am based in,
Yes.
or I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is basically kind of right in the center of the United States. Not dead center, but pretty close. And so, have born and raised there. And, I've got my real job, but my side job or my passion project is helping people navigate their divorce and then helping people navigate dating after divorce. So I kind of speak to both audiences, and I've been doing that for the past 2 years, and just absolutely love sharing and helping other people.
Yes, I love your content. I love your videos. I love everything about you and your page. What made you start doing this? It's something you went through, or what made you decide that you wanted to do this?
I started initially with a divorce support group. It's called Divorced Over 40. And really, it was a function of COVID. When COVID occurred in the United States, pretty much everybody was shut down. And I was divorced at the time. And I couldn't date. And I kind of used dating, like a lot of people do, as kind of a way to keep busy, a way to maybe avoid healing. We a lot of times as a divorced man or woman, we date for the wrong reasons after our divorce. And I was one of those. And now all of a sudden I can't date. So I've got a lot of time to myself. And as I reflected on my life after my divorce, I was like, I don't really have a lot of friends. I really haven't focused on cultivating friendships after my divorce, and I didn't really come out of my divorce with a lot of friends. And so I made an intention that summer to really cultivate and focus on finding someone or finding people to become friends with. And I happened to, someone at my work had just gone through his divorce. We were about the same age. And we started hanging out and we started socializing. We started having cookouts at his house where we'd have people over and everybody would bring food and we would just socialize. And I noticed as I was watching these people come, because we would have cookouts almost every week, everyone's divorced. Everyone is, and it's not a dating event. I mean, everybody is there yearning for connection. And that's when kind of a group of friends that I had built from that, it was kind of the aha moment of, well, maybe we can put something together to really provide support to people just like us, that you get out of a divorce, you really don't have friendships, and friendships can be a great healing mechanism for people coming out. And it's honestly, I'm an advocate that you should really invest in friendships versus dating first, because you're going to get a lot better return and you're going to heal a lot faster. And that's really how it started, is a little bit of a selfish motive, but also because of COVID.
Wow, wow. That's really interesting. So I was going through your page and you said divorce doesn't suck. Let's start from there. What do you mean by that when you say divorce doesn't suck?
Yeah, I mean, divorce does suck. I think we all can agree that divorce is, regardless of where you live in the world, and culturally, it's a lot different in different places, right? For
Right.
example, the Middle Eastern culture, divorce is, very frowned upon, as with many other cultures, the Asian cultures. And it's so different. It's frowned upon. There's a negative stigma with divorce, and it is a painful process. It's the unraveling of a relationship that, which, if you include kids, could last, multiple decades. It's painful, and there's a lot of emotions that go with it. What the message that I'm trying to say is, with divorce doesn't suck, is there's life after divorce. It's not your last chapter, and then you pretty much are done. There's an opportunity through healing and through rediscovering yourself to have an incredible life after divorce, which could include finding a new person that you fall in love with and finding a new relationship. It may not mean, in a season of your life that you're focused on relationships. And so, in essence, that's what divorce doesn't suck means to us, is that it is painful, but you can have a vibrant and epic life after your divorce if you do the right things.
I couldn't agree more, Daniel. I myself were living in Atlanta, and one of my main issues leaving my husband was the shame I'm going to bring upon my family and my community and the people, and I couldn't fathom that. And coming from a family with no divorce background, it was a hard pill to swallow. I mean, I literally had to stay in USA for over 7 months just because to accept the fact that okay, I have to come back to my country, which is Pakistan, and
Mm-hmm.
face the people and let them know okay, it's not going to work. I don't think so. How I'm going to accept that here is just one man. When I come back, oh, there's going to be everybody. And I went back and forth, and then people I spoke with, like my immediate family, said no, it isn't bad. Divorces become really common. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And then I came back thinking that the mindset had changed. But actually, what had happened is the divorce rate has really gone up, yes. But people's mindset is still the same. You're still shamed upon if being a woman, how can you walk away? I mean, you can't do that to your kids. How are you going to raise the kids without a father? So it was really challenging. And I actually didn't think that I have a life now because I'm going to get divorced. And whoa, healing and being here, I'm like, this is the best thing I've done for myself because now I can experience it and show to the world that there is life on the other side.
Yeah. And were you in an arranged marriage, or was it one in which you met?
It was semi-arranged. Like I met him and we were allowed to meet like a couple of times before we decided. Like we didn't have months, but we got like 3-4 times to visit each other,
Yeah.
go out and have lunch and sit and talk and see if we kind of click. And in those meetings we decided that yeah, we want to. I think we can spend the rest of our lives together. Though
Yeah.
now when I look back, there were hundreds of red flags, which of course for whatever reason I just ignored. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Um,
When I started to build out the Divorce Over 40 community, and we started to really get attention from people all over the country and a lot of people from all over the world, it was such a learning experience for me personally, because I'm in this little bubble in the middle of the United States, and there's not a lot of culture here, and to be able to learn about the different cultures and how divorce is perceived. And I remember a friendship that I cultivated was with a young woman. She now kind of leads our Divorced Over 40 community up in the Detroit area, who is of Indian descent, had an arranged marriage, and went just through this incredibly traumatic breakup, which, in many cases broke up her entire family for a time, because culturally, it's almost disgraceful to leave your husband or to have a divorce. And so for me, it was just a learning process. And I loved it, the opportunity to learn about how divorce is perceived all across the country. And many of that, is with as cultural as the United States is becoming, those cultures are coming to the United States, and that divorce mentality still exists, even though people are in the United States. I love the fact that as I learned, there's a lot more support groups for people of all cultures, particularly in cultures where divorce is incredibly stigmatized and incredibly negative. And so it's just been really rewarding for me building this organization, in that it's really opened my eyes and allowed me to learn and be empathetic and just to be more open. So, and, also to provide hope, to let other people tell their stories, which we do a lot of, which I think gives a lot of people hope when they think that there's no hope at all.
Yes, yes. I think, Daniel, our culture and our environment around us plays such an important role in molding the way we think and perceive relationships. And it was shocking, because when I was trying to really, in those 7 months, like I said before, actually say that, okay, I'm not going to, I can't go back to this person. Uh, I started reaching these Islamic scholars to know their really understand what does my religion, Islam, say about divorce, because I was told, oh, it's shamed upon, God doesn't like it, God gets angry, it's the most disliked thing in the holy book and stuff. And I called this guy from UK, and so I go on. Well, I'm a talker, so I spoke for like 1.5 hours, and then after that he's like, okay, ma'am, I'm going to stop you, and I've heard enough. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And he goes like, you could have just said to me that I'm not happy, and I would have said that God has given you the permission to walk out. And I was like, oh, really? That easy? And he said, yes, it's as simple as that. And I said, no, no, no. But, people told me this when I was growing up. And they said, no, that's all manipulation and way of controlling women. Your faith allows you to walk away simply because maybe one day you get up and you guys don't feel attracted to each other. Period. No shame. Walk away. There is no shame in having a divorce. And he's like, you're here like giving me these. I was literally telling him all of the things I didn't like about my marriage. And he's like, you don't need that. You could have just said that I'm not happy. And I said, God permits you. You would be happy that you're getting away from a toxic environment, because what are you teaching your kids, right? What are you instilling in your kids? What are the values you're teaching? What about self-respect and integrity? So it was shocking. I didn't believe him, Daniel. I was like, oh no, I think he's too liberal. I think he's trying to be liberal. I had to literally go out and read 4 or 5 other scholars who backed up with the same answer. And I was shocked. I was like, okay, maybe what I know around my faith, I need to go and unlearn and then kind of relearn it, because I think there is a lot more that is wrong that I know while I was being raised in my own country. And it's really been in a empowering journey.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, because of our religious beliefs and how we view divorce as it pertains to our religion, a lot of times prevents or restricts people from making hard decisions because they feel shameful, or they feel that it's a sin, or that it's going to be frowned upon. And I went through the same experience that you did. I remember having breakfast with my dad, and I'm a Christian, and there's certain circumstances, if you read scripture in our faith, that of when you can get a divorce, but in most cases it's frowned upon. And I remember sitting down with my dad, and it was real early, and I felt really guilty, and I was actually started crying at the breakfast table, and just felt. And he said, "Daniel, God forgave you the moment that you decided that you were going to go through this process. He's already
Mm.
forgiven you. So quit beating yourself up and do the right thing." And it was so refreshing to hear my dad, who I looked up to say something like that. It was just freeing for me. And I think it's a lot of times that those type of things, I mean, there's always different reasons why people are held back from getting out of a toxic situation. And if you're really in, look, I'm a huge advocate that we as people, if we're committed in a marriage, we should do everything in our power to turn it the right way, whether it's counseling, working together with your spouse, trying to make that last ditch effort to try to make it right. But if that doesn't work, we can't let this guilt and shame of how we're going to feel or how people are going to look at us control our decisions, because we're just going to ultimately be unhappy for a very long period of time. And it's not going to be healthy for us. It's not going to be healthy for our spouse. Certainly not going to be healthy for our kids. I mean, that's the big piece of it. And
Yes.
so that's the stigma that we are all trying to overcome, is this cloud over us this is a bad thing and you shouldn't do it, even if you're unhappy for whatever reasons, religious, cultural, whatever. And I think the more that people share their stories about why they did it and how they came out of it and how it turned out great for them and their ex, the more it gives people encouragement and hope to maybe be willing to take that step if they're in a bad situation.
Yes, yes. I think for me it's been really empowering, because when I came to my country, it was like, oh, your kids are going to be from a broken home. And I just was so uncomfortable with the word. And then one day I just said, listen, nobody says that in front of my kids, because they're not from a broken home. The family dynamics have shifted. I love my kids. The dad loves them. You all love them. It's just a shift in relationship, right? And I just couldn't take that. And they were like, when two parents are not living together, they're going to have consequences. The kids are going to be messed up because of the divorce, because of the separation. And it was a hard pill to swallow, because you beat yourself up, you feel guilty. Are you doing the right thing for your kids? Is it going to be okay? Are they going to turn out okay when they grow up, when they understand? And it was really, really, for me, it was a moment, because my daughter, like, she's going to be 12 in a few days, and this is like last year. And she came to me and she said, Mom, I want to say something. And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And she goes like, I think that you said such a right thing by leaving dad, and please don't ever go back. And I was like, I was taken aback, and I was like, oh, why do you say that? Like, it's been a long time. And she said, yeah, it's been a long time. Now I realize how unhappy and miserable I was in that environment. While living there, I didn't realize that I love you, I love him, but I don't want you both to be together. And now this is an 11-year-old kid coming and saying that. So you can imagine, in that moment, it was like a win. It was like, yes, now all the guilt, all the shame about around the fact that, what if I'm not doing right for my kids, it just turned around. And I was like, you know what, I think you should go and tell everybody in the family how you feel about it, so people can know actually that
That you're
something.
okay, right? That she's
Yeah, yeah,
okay. Yeah.
she's okay and she's happier this way, and she doesn't want the parents to be together.
Yeah.
She's literally like, please don't go back, like that
You
kind of
know,
thing.
and I love that. I think my kids came to that conclusion. And the one thing that I've learned is that there is no, like, healing isn't linear. It's not like, okay, well, 12 months from now, your kids are going to be great. Or
Mm.
18 months from now, your kids are going to be great. Or 5 years from now, your kids are going to be great. Every child, including my three daughters, all handled it differently. Some compartmentalized it and didn't express their feelings, and it's now coming out. Others were very expressive at the front end. And each one of them healed in their own way and in their own timeline. And it's not for us to try to push, hey, we're moving on, it's time to move on, and try to push them towards that healing. They have to kind of do it, and we're there to support them along the way, to listen to them, to empathize with them. And that was one thing that I learned. You know, even though I might be completely healed and recovered from it, it doesn't necessarily mean that my kids are. And so,
Yes.
unfortunately, we kind of learned that the hard way as we're going through it. But it's an important thing to note that your kids need time. Allow them to do it their own way, and you just be there to support and bring in
Yes.
the support as needed.
Yes. Give them the compassion and that space. Uh, Daniel, since you're in this space and you work with so many men and women, what are the challenges men and women face around divorce?
I think it's well, there's a couple things. Number one is um, healing. Like, what defines healing? How do you know? A lot of people define healing as I got to bounce back into the next relationship,
Mm,
and that's a natural human behavior because look, we're hurting, we're lonely, we don't feel wanted, and so jumping into dating or jumping into another relationship before we've healed feels good. It feels good initially because, you know, you're getting all the praises, you're getting admiration, you're getting affection. And so, you know, I'm a big believer that, and I did it all the wrong way. So I'm someone that's real compassionate or passionate about, you got to heal before you date.
yes.
And so then people say, well, how do you heal? Well, like I said with the example of the kids, every person heals
Just
differently, but you've got to focus on self-care. Now, what's self-care? Well, therapy would be one. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. If you feel like that's something that you need, go seek a therapist and work through some of your issues, work through the emotions that you're going through. Some people meditate, some people exercise. That was something that I did. I exercised almost every day, like when I was separated, because it released endorphins and I felt good about myself. And that was like one thing that I could control in a moment of time where I really couldn't control anything was my body and my health. So exercise, nutrition, yoga, reading, meditation, watching podcasts like this. You know, there's all different ways, you know, that's self-care. There's so many different spectrums, and finding something that appeals to you that really creates that calm is something that I wish everybody would do while they're going through the divorce, and particularly after, up until the point that they feel healthy and happy and healed. And then we can talk about dating, but not before.
right, right. Since you, I just one question really popped in was like when you talk about healing, do you think, for example, let's talk about you. Do you think that when you thought that you've healed and you were ready to put yourself out there, right? Do you think that sometimes you think that you've completely healed, but when you are in a relationship, you're actually testing, uh, uh, seeing how much you've healed, because being with someone can show you some triggers, which you were unaware of and you're caught off guard.
Great. That's a great observation. I think you're right. I think that, um, you know, certainly if you're getting triggered a lot early in relationships, then you probably haven't healed, and you got to work through those. Like, I deal with a lot of people that say, you know, they came from a breakup where there was a violation of trust. Maybe there was infidelity or something else. And so they've come out of this trauma of a marriage in which they lost trust with their ex-spouse, and it's very hard for them to trust again. And my response to them is, how is it fair for you to go into a new relationship not trusting that person? Um, you should not trust someone if you're violated, if someone violates the trust. And so that's something that's on you that you need to work through, where you go into a relationship with that discovery process and you build trust over time, but you don't come in distrusting someone. And we see that all the time coming into the next relationship. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're triggered a lot emotionally, if you've got waves of sadness and depression, and maybe you get easily angered, and there's, you know, conflict becomes easy with someone that you're dating or that you're in a new relationship with, that's pretty much a sign that you're not ready yet. And maybe you just need to take a step back, focus back on the self-care, and heal before you dive into the next relationship, because all you're doing is you're hurting yourself, but more particularly you're hurting the person that you're dating. You know, they may be completely healed and happy and healthy, and that's not fair to them to date someone that's still poisonous, still toxic. And so I think it's important that we do that. And all too often, that's why we see these negative and bad dating patterns in today's dating pools, because there's so many toxic people that are dating right now. They shouldn't be dating. They should be focusing on healing, but instead they're jumping into the dating pool and they're just muddying all the waters.
Right. And I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that if you do have certain triggers and you want to stay in the relationship, maybe have open communication and say, hey, this thing triggered because of this from my past, and this is where I'm at, and see what the other person has to say, and see if you can work it around, or whether, like you said, creating that space would be good, or just staying friends with, say, the person you're dating and trying to overcome the triggers.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And I think the message that you're trying to emphasize is you got to communicate. As a matter
Yes.
of fact,
Yeah.
you need to over communicate when you're jumping into a new relationship, as far as, you know, where your pain will, as you're getting to know someone. No, you don't need to spill your guts with someone real early in the process, but you should at least be willing to open up and talk about, hey, these are the things that may trigger me. These are the things that are painful to me.
Yeah.
And so I
Exactly.
just want you to be aware of those so that we can talk through them and see if we can navigate it together. Maybe you won't be able to, but maybe you will. And a great example of that is maybe the way that people have their past life dealt with conflict. There's lots of ways in which people deal with conflict, and as you're getting into a new relationship, they might not be accustomed to that. And so communicating through that. Look, like for me, for example, you know, when I deal with conflict, I withdraw. I become passive aggressive. I don't want to engage in the conflict and resolve it. I just want to withdraw and hope that it goes away. Well, that's not healthy for anybody. It's not healthy. And so one of the things that I did when I got into a relationship was communicate. This is how I tend to do things. I'm really working on that on myself, but I've got this self-awareness where I want to make sure that you understand that's kind of how I deal with things, and I really want to fix that. And I still naturally will gravitate to that as my default, but the mind says, no, I got to work through these. I got to deal with this because I'm in a committed relationship. But at least she's aware, because we communicated how I deal with those things, and vice versa, with however she deals with stuff.
Yes, absolutely. That was so beautiful. What do you think is the biggest reason of divorce?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think a lot of people, you know, I wish that, I don't know if I've ever vocalized this. I wish that there was more upfront counseling that was required for new married couples, like a legal requirement that before you get married and before it becomes a legal document, that you need to go through a particular course, or maybe seek a certain certification, a counselor that's certified in marriage counseling, just to understand where the friction's going to happen. Because a lot of times we're still kind of in that honeymoon phase, and many times we move too fast, and we haven't really worked through the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And I kind of wish that, every relationship, I wish as a kid, when I first got married, that I would have had that. Now we had counseling with our pastor before he married us, but I wish that there was more to that, talking about finances and kids and views on
I
life,
think
just to
talking
make sure
about the
that
big questions. We don't talk, like you said, we stay
we
stuck in
don't.
that honeymoon period, right? And we think it's all love, it's always going to be love. I think we've all bought into that BS. I think if we are more self-aware in the first place about who we are and what we want for ourselves, if we have that kind of clarity, I think we can kind of attract the right person. But since we're also living in that unawareness zone of who we are, and we think that this person is right for us, but then when the awareness hits in, you realize that, oh, this is not what I wanted, this was not how
Right.
I wanted marriage to look like. And I think, of course, now we're in different times and people are getting aware. I think we need to really sit and understand. Like, I was having a conversation with someone, and they were saying, like, if you were to date someone or go out with someone, and I said, you know what, the first thing I'm going to say is, hey, are you going to throw your towel after a shower on the bed? Because that's going to be a freaking trigger for me.
Yeah, right.
Right, so have the real uncomfortable conversations. Tell them what you feel, what are the things you like and what are things you don't like. And like you said, talk about finances, talk about kids, how do you want to raise kids. A lot of parents struggle when you have kids. With religion, you have a different perspective of raising your kids, and your partner has a different one, and there's the conflict. So I think having the real I think that's a great idea. We should definitely
That's like the precursor, but to answer your question, why are divorces occurring? So it's either like we had an expectation of what a marriage was going to look like, and it
right.
didn't live up to that.
Mm.
And a part of it is because we didn't communicate those things on the front end. That's number one. And number two is, and I think there's all, people could argue this differently. I've heard a couple of podcasts that would say something different than this, but I think that we start to, and it's either one part or the other, we stop investing in each other.
Mm.
And that's where the drift occurs. I call it the drift. When you stop investing in your spouse, and a lot of times things get in the way, hobbies, work, kids, maybe a bad vice like an addiction, those things create wedges in a relationship, and we stop facing and looking at each other, and we're just focused on the busyness or the things that we're passionate about. And that's when the relationship starts to drift. And that was an example of why I got divorced. Is we just drifted over years, and pretty soon after a number of years, you turn back and you look at your spouse and you're like, you're way far away from where I am, because we
Mm.
drifted so far, and we didn't
Mm.
even notice how far we split. And so, just the ideal that you've always got to invest in your spouse. And there's lots of different ways that you could quote unquote invest, but investing in your spouse all throughout the marriage is the way to keep it
And
healthy. It's
every
no,
because the relationship's going to evolve and change, you're going to evolve and change. And just having that mindset that I'm entering this marriage with this mindset, and his mindset is this, but it might and it will probably change 10 years down the lane. And which, like you said, we're going to support each other, and we're going to be there, and we're going to cherish the change.
I mean, look, if you planted a garden and you didn't tend to the garden, you're never going to bear fruit.
Mm.
Weeds are going to come in, the bugs are going to come eat the vegetables. And so having a healthy garden and producing good fruit requires effort. You have to show up. In many cases, during the harvest season or when you plant, every day, you got to go out there,
Mm.
you got to weed, you got to make sure you've got fertilizer, you got to make sure that the bugs aren't eating it, whatever that may
Right.
be. And a marriage is no different. You have to constantly fertilize it and invest in it and make sure that weeds aren't getting in between you. And too often we don't tend our gardens. I just came up with that analogy, but
It's very profound. It makes sense.
yeah. So that's what you have to do. And if you're going to get in the next relationship, you better be willing to tend the garden.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Uh, how does one know that this marriage is not growing or not, or it's time to consider divorce? Are there any red flags? Are there any signs or something to look out for?
I mean, a lot of times there's some sort of triggering event that really creates the decision to really start the process. Maybe there's infidelity, someone had an affair, maybe there's a discovery of an addiction that someone had that they've been hiding, a gambling addiction, a drug addiction, a prescription addiction. Those are kind of the worst cases. But I think that, as I look back at my own marriage, I think that when you come home, which is supposed to be a safe place for you, and it's unhealthy, and you know that it's just toxic. It's toxic for you. It's toxic for your spouse. It's toxic even for your kids. Then something has to be done. You're either going to continue to live in that and continue to get sicker until there's a dramatic event that will trigger it, or you make a decision. And just like the example of your daughter coming to that conclusion, took her a while to kind of figure that out, but she realized, oh my gosh, I was living in a toxic environment, and I'm so much happier and healthier with mom and dad split. And my kids kind of came to that conclusion early. They're a lot more observant than we think, even though we try to hide a lot of times the issues in our marriage. And so I think that it's when that toxicity and that unhappiness have crept in where, you just feel like it's so overwhelming and you can't really change the tide.
Yeah, yeah. So Daniel, once you divorce, once that's done, when do you think? I think we've already talked about it, but I think you already shed some light on that. But when do you think one is ready to put themselves out there after divorce for dating? I think again comes back to healing. I think.
I always tell people you're ready to date when you don't really care about dating.
Oh, okay.
So when dating is like, yeah, I think I'll try it, because you're
Oh.
enjoying your life, you're excited in the chapter of your life as a human being, you feel complete. And I always use the baking a cake analogy. A guy or a girl is not an ingredient for the cake. You are the cake. And so you have to get to a point where there's no outside influence that is needed for you to bake the cake. You can bake it yourself. It's complete. Now, finding that relationship is icing on the cake, but the cake's already baked. And so all too often people don't feel complete in their lives unless they have a plus one, unless they're in a relationship. And you've got to get to that point where I'm happy being single. I'm happy with the direction of my life and the outlook of my life. And date, if I happen to meet someone at that point, great. That's great. But it's not what's driving me. It's not driving my behavior.
Right. That makes so much sense. Do you think someone who is just separated and not divorced yet should be dating?
No, 100% no. And I did it. I dated when I was separated. So I speak from experience, not from judging people. And there's a number of reasons why. Number one, people will use the excuse of, well, I've been separated for 4 years. We've lived separate lives. We just haven't finalized the divorce. I don't care. You're still married. You're still in a contract with your partner. You're still a married person. And so I believe that the true death of a marriage is when the divorce decree is signed and that's when the marriage is buried. And then there's a time for mourning. Then you mourn and heal and recover after the death. You don't mourn and heal and recover during the marriage. You do it afterwards. And so you don't need to be intertwining other people in your lives romantically or your kids' lives when you're still in a marriage and only separated. And I get a lot of flack for that, but I did it. And all I did was a couple things. I hurt my spouse, my ex-spouse. I hurt my kids, and I hurt the people that I dated. And it just wasn't fair for any of them because I wasn't ready. I wasn't healthy. I was doing it for all the wrong reasons. And so I really think there's no timeline after a divorce as far as when, because you need to, like we said, it's all when you feel healthy and happy. But I'm not a big advocate for dating when you're still married. Let's not even use separated. Don't date when you're still married. How about that?
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Okay. Does divorce mean that a part of you has failed?
Well, yeah. I mean, certainly I felt like I mean, particularly as a man, you know, men tend to, the way they validate themselves, a lot of men, including myself, was that you're successful. You're successful in your career. You're successful in the kids and how they were raised and them being successful. And you're successful in a marriage a partnership. And I mean, certainly, you know, I went through all of those emotions of feeling like I failed. I felt like I failed myself, like I failed my ex, failed my kids, failed my in-laws. And so, yeah, a lot of times we go through that, whether you're a man or a woman, but particularly I think the men sometimes feel a little bit more of that. And it just takes time to kind of get over that and realize, you know, we all make mistakes. We all fail in things every day. And this just happened to be one of them, but it's what you do on the other side. It's how do you become a better person? How do your kids potentially become a better person? How does your ex-spouse become a better person? And if all of them can do that, then it's a win for everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. What do you think are some good things that come out of a divorce?
Um, you know, I think a lot of things come out that are good. I think number one is, and this,
Self-discovery,
what's that?
self-discovery, like finding yourself.
You got it.
Mhm.
But when people dive into the next relationship, they miss that window
Mm.
in which you go through that self-discovery because during self-discovery, you're the sole decision maker outside of your kids and your responsibilities, maybe to your ex-spouse, financially or otherwise. You are the sole decision maker of everything that you do. Nobody else has a say. And that's an incredible, empowering feeling that you probably haven't had in 15, 20, 25, 30 years, the last time you were single. And
Mm.
so a lot of people miss that because it allows you to rediscover your hobbies or passions or maybe a new career or things that you checking off that bucket list. Lots of things that you can do to kind of figure out yourself and kind of rediscover who the new you is. And when we jump into a relationship, guess what? Now you're a partner. You have a partner that has a decision, that has a vote. And so you're limiting that opportunity for you to have all that autonomy. And I think that's a powerful season in your life that all of us should take advantage of.
Yes, absolutely. Daniel, do you think that it is wise to date somebody who has been divorced several times?
You know, I don't pass judgment on those that may have been in multiple marriages. I think as someone that was encountering someone that's experienced that, I'd really want to understand why, particularly if I was getting into a relationship with that person. I think it's important to understand why marriages fail as you're dating new people. Number
Mhm.
one, I always ask that question when I dated because I want to see how they respond. Are they healed, or are they going to immediately throw out all this toxicity? You know, throwing their ex under the bus and talking about all the bad things. And so it's always a really good signal for me to see where they are in their state of healing. But it is important for me to understand, are there patterns or behaviors that this person has exhibited that they haven't changed, which keeps leading to failed relationships. So I think proceed with caution, but don't judge people, you know, for past mistakes because we all make plenty of them.
Yes, yes. And a person, if a person is not healed, of course they're going to be repeating the same pattern. So they're good people, but they're just not healed. So that's
Exactly
why they
right.
probably get that same result. I know we're short on time, but I want to shed some light on dating. I've heard some scary things about dating and dating apps, whether it's Tinder or Minder. We have Minder in our part of the world. Uh, I want you to shed some light on that. Is it scary, these apps and putting yourself out there in these apps and finding this person you don't know who's, on the other side? So, how
Well,
about
let me
that?
say this. Let me shed the positive light to something that's often perceived as scary and negative. There are some incredible people on dating apps. There are people that are emotionally healthy. There are people that are single. There are people that have integrity. There are people that are truthful. There are people that have great character, both men and women, on the dating apps. And so there's an incredible opportunity to discover and find those people. But that's not the norm. But you know what? That's not the norm in real life either. If you were to go out and just encounter people, you're going to encounter much more bad than you are the good. And so you have to kind of go in with that knowledge that I'm looking for a gem of a person. And finding a gem, you're not going to just walk down the street and find a diamond on the ground. You have to do some hard rock mining. It's going to take effort, but it also is going to take skills to be able to identify those that are healthy or not, and those that are aligned with your values and what you want and not. And so a lot of people that follow me will say exactly what you said. I'm really scared. I've heard all the horror stories. And I always say, you got to prepare yourself. You got to do the book work, the pre-study, all of the educate yourself before you jump on the dating apps, because you'll get smarter and you'll have more knowledge of questions to ask,
right?
How observing behaviors, observing photos. I mean, all of it. And if you can learn to say no faster to people, I said this in a podcast, the quicker you can say no's to the wrong people, the faster you're going to get to the yes to the right person. But you have to develop the skill set to be able to say, oh, this person isn't a fit, I'm moving on, or this. We give too many chances, or we don't ask the right questions, and we spend way too much time with the wrong people. So I think it's a great place. It's not the only place that you can meet people, but it's a great avenue if you know how to navigate it.
Absolutely. Daniel, do you have like a dating app or a space that you offer for people who are looking to date?
I have a club. It's called the Intentional Dating Club, and the purpose of the club is to help do exactly that, to educate and empower people to take control of their dating. And so we bring in a bunch of experts to help educate you on, how to build a dating profile, what to look for in a dating profile, what type of questions to ask, how do you flirt, relationship, how to deal with relationships, how to set boundaries. So we bring in all these experts into the club. And then the other benefit of the club is just community, just allowing people who are intentionally dating, who are serious about dating, to be able to just talk with each other and say, what should I do if this guy does this, or this girl said this back, how would you feel about that? And just kind of empathize and support each other, which you don't really get a lot of times when you're dating. So I created a club, and we're about 150 strong, growing every day. And it's just incredible to see how people are really kind of, spreading their wings and really taking control of their dating experiences.
Okay, how do we get in this club?
Well, you can jump over on my DM or on my Instagram and just DM me, I want information on the club, and I'll send you a link. Real easy.
Okay, that's great. Daniel, thank you so much for coming forward and doing this with me. I didn't give up on you. I kept on going, made sure we did this, and I'm so happy and grateful, of course. Since we're wrapping up, what message would you want to give to the audience, people who are going through divorce right now, or people who are trying to put themselves out there again for dating? What is one collective message that you want to give them all?
I would say that there are some incredible people with servants' hearts that genuinely want to help people like yourself. There's so many people out there as you navigate this in the dating and divorce space that want to do nothing but pass along their wisdom and help other people. Go embrace that. Embrace the people that are bringing people on lives like this and pushing out content and having podcasts, and so many good people. And so before you go do anything, go seek those people for counsel and support, because you will be rewarded. There's some fantastic people out here. And I'm so glad we connected. And I love the fact that you've got a servant's heart, and you're doing it from Pakistan, which is great. And I think that I love the message that you're sending to your audience. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. Take good care of yourself, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.